Yo, what's up everyone? This is Kaizouwar here. This video isn't going to be super long or anything, but I wanted to talk about my thoughts on Dual Rulers now that it's finally finished airing all 8 of its episodes. A Guilty Gear anime should have been a thing years ago, but I'm happy we have it now that Guilty Gear Strive is big, Guilty Gear in general is bigger than it's ever been through Strive. It's nice to see that it finally gets a chance to have an anime for itself to shine. And I'm happy with Dual Rulers. It's not perfect, but I really enjoy my time with it. It's kind of funny that this is the most recent anime I've kept up with, and it had to be an anime, a Guilty Gear of all things, for me to, start keeping up with anime as it airs. It's crazy. But again, I really enjoy Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers. There will be spoilers in this video. I just want to warn you about that right now. There won't be a lot. I don't want to go episode by episode and do play by play. I really don't want to do that. Because I was going to make a series of videos about that. I made a video about episode 1 and I just never followed up on it because I've been so busy, and now the anime's over, so there's really no point in me making those episodes by episodes because I've already watched them all. So I guess that's 7 more videos I'm never going to make, sadly enough. I hate being an adult. But anyway, now that Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers is done with, let me talk about what I thought of it. So, I'm going to talk about the good. I really loved Unica. I've been a fan of Unica since that teaser poster came out, way before the anime came out. Big fan of Unica. Happy that she was done justice in the show. There were some things that were a little bit off to me about Unica in the show, which I'll get to later. But other than that, I really liked her character. I'm glad that she exists in general. Because, honestly, as much as I love Guilty Gear, I like seeing new faces, right? But characters like Gold Lewis weren't really, catching my attention. I like Happy Chaos, but he really wasn't a character I really was, super into. There was also Giovanna, which I did like, but again, Giovanna wasn't characters like Giovanna, Nagoriyuki, all the new characters for Strive so far. There weren't characters that just they look cool, I liked them, but they didn't really have that, I don't know, I can't say pizzazz, but they didn't have enough to them for me to go whoa dude, this is crazy, that kind of thing, right? Unica has a lot of new lore implications coming with her. When you have characters like Gold Lewis, he's just the Secretary of Absolute Defense. Giovanni, she's just, a U.S. Government agent. Nagoriyuki, he has lore to him, but he doesn't have enough going on with him, and that's why I like Unica. There's a lot going on with Unica and a lot of implications to go around with her, and that's why I like the character so much. And I think she was done pretty well in the anime with some small stuff that I'm not really the biggest fan of, but I'll get to that in a minute. The new lore stuff they brought with the anime, because the anime has a big focus on the coexistence between human and gears, and I really like that they're focusing on that, because it's kind of been a thing in Guilty Gear where they kind of just not talk about it too much. It was a thing that was early in Guilty Gear, but there was really no way of them coexisting at all, because gears were seen as the big monsters, and Soul was seen as the big hero trying to kill all the gears and stuff like that. But with the introduction of Dizzy, Guilty Gear X, that kind of puts some things in perspective, and it goes on further when Kai marries Dizzy, and they have Sin, and then Sin is basically this forbidden union of human and gears, and then, they kind of go on from there. But they really didn't do much with that in, the XR games and Strive, But I like that Dual Rulers has a bigger focus on the gears than, it's been in a while. We're introduced to, obviously, Unica. There's her hatred towards gears. And then we're introduced to another character who was original to this anime named Nerval Hammer. Now, I will get in my thoughts about Nerval Hammer a little bit later, because I kind of didn't organize this enough, but Nerval Hammer he's a U.S. senator who also has a grudge against gears. He doesn't like them. He's very open about that. Unica's very open about it either, but Unica's not going to go up to literally the king and queen of Illyria and straight up say, yeah, them gears, they suck. They suck. Don't like them. Not a big fan of them. Sakai, you're the hero of the Crusades, and yet you're hanging out with a gear, the very thing you fought against. What's going on there, brother? That kind of stuff. But I'll get into Nerval later. But not only that, they revealed that Sin is a commander gear, like Justice, which actually does make sense. Dizzy was a commander gear, so it would only make sense there. Her child, damn it. Spoiled it a little too early. Sin will also be a commander gear, right? And they actually showed off in a couple of episodes about him being able to command the gears. It just feels weird that this is now something they want to bring up. Sin's been around since Overtour. You'd figure after what? We have XR Sign, we had Revelator, and then Rev 2. And granted, Ratatouille didn't really add much, but like, you figure after all these like all these updates and stuff, you would have figured, oh yeah, Sin being a commander gear would have been something y'all would have said by now. I guess there would have been no point, but like, seeing how justice was provided in Revelation, you figured that would have been like a plot point they could have brought up, but you know, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, I do like the new lore stuff they add in. I do like seeing more scenes with these characters, like seeing Soul still be able to do all his crazy stuff, despite the fact that he doesn't have most of his gear powers. Is actually pretty crazy. I like seeing that Soul's here. You know, I like seeing that. You know, this it's not gonna be a series where like Soul is pushed way into the background and not be able to do anything. He actually does something, which I really like. It's not going to forget about characters like Soul. I do feel bad that Dizzy and Kai were like had to be the ones to be quote unquote sacrificed in order for the story to progress. This is just like Overture again, which we've already called that was going to happen, but still a little bummed out about that. But I'm not going to really worry about that too much. They come in at the end of the anime, they get to have their wedding. I like that. But anything else? Yeah, there's some fight scenes I really did like. Not all the fight scenes are winners. There's a bunch of ones that are just kind of like a bunch of stills. That's another thing I gotta talk about the anime later. But I think the highlight for me is like Sin versus Unica in like episode 2, which I really loved. That was a really good fight scene, well done. And the fact that all this was done in Blender is actually pretty insane. There was like a fight scene I think the last episode between like Soul. It was like Soul and like the whole group Sans Unica versus like a bunch of Nerval clones, and I really like that as well. Again, a Nerval clone I'll talk about later when I talk about the Nerval, but yeah, like it's a little jarring to me seeing like a character like Ramathal in some parts of the anime. She does like a bunch of cuts of her doing attacks, and it's just a bunch of stills of her like moving, and it's not even like really like dramatic drawn well stills like we had in the previous episodes. It's more like you took the 3D model she was doing and just paused it every few times, and I feel that kind of sucks. But again, that's not. I'm talking about positive things right now. I'm getting into the negative stuff. But anyway, I also like some character interactions. I really do like that this anime puts more of a focus on I'm not gonna say lesser characters, but more characters who don't really get to do much in the plot of Guilty Gear. Like for example, Baiken. She's a major player in the anime. Johnny is, Bridget is. I like that, you know, because I really think like there should be some stuff for these type of characters, right? That's why I like another story in Guilty Gear Strive, because it actually gave time to the other characters we don't get to see. Yeah, obviously Soul, Kai, Sin, Ramathal, Elfel, you know, all of them. They're gonna be like a big focus on Guilty Gear. Like the series essentially centers around them, right? But I do like seeing what the other characters are going on. You know, what's going on with them. Guilty Gear is a series too big and with a cast too diverse and too crazy to not have stuff focused on. I mean, I feel like Guilty Gear should have had like spin-offs by now of these characters. I'm genuinely amazed that like there's not even like Arxis can't open like a side project for just them to focus on the other Guilty Gear characters. I really think that's a missed opportunity. I feel like that will make you some money. I mean, Baiken and Johnny fans are out there. Come on. But yeah, those are all my positives for Guilty Gear Strive. Now I want to talk about some negatives, and this negatives list is going to be pretty long, despite the not really long, but like it's going to be a little vast, despite the fact that I really enjoyed the anime. But I really want to talk about some of the negatives I had. Okay, so some of my negatives include the obvious budget cuts. Now, this anime was not going to be like super like well animated all the time. I kind of saw that one coming. I mean, it's an anime based on Guilty Gear. Arc System Works is a very small company. I don't know how big Sanzigen, if I'm saying their name right, I don't know how big they are, but I understand that it wasn't a lot of money being funneled between these two, so they had to, you know, do what you can. Like hell, when Guilty Gear X Arc came out, obviously Arc was still like it was smaller than it was now, right? And that was an artistic choice they made, you know, just to make the game look like that. And it's still praised as one of the best looking fighting games out there. So, you know, you could do a lot with limitation, right? But I feel like as the anime went on with dual rulers, there was like spots that you could definitely see where the budget kind of cut down. You know, there's a lot of still frames, there's a lot of those action shots where like there's like 3 cut, like I know there's a name for it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but where like the character tries to attack, right? And it'll like have the character go, like it'll have a still image of the character going up, then it'll like pan back down and go back up again, and it'll pan back down and go back up again, that kind of thing, right? I don't know, I know there's a name for it, I just cannot remember off the top of my head, but that kind of thing, right? And it happens a lot in the anime. Like, I praised the first episode where, like, they had, like, drawings of Kai, like, really detailed drawings of Kai and Dizzy and how they met and stuff like that. And it does happen a lot in the anime where the stills at least look good, right? the stills don't look bad. It's just like there's a lot of them, and I'm not really expecting like high octane action all the time in these types of animes. You know, like I'm not expecting like a fight scene every single episode, despite the fact that this is an anime based on a fighting game. No, I was more expecting, you know, more quieter moments, more, you know, character interaction moments you couldn't really get in the series, like, you know, like during the story mode, Guilty Gear. You know, you have to you have to keep going in these types of story modes to keep the viewer interested and see what the new lore stuff and all that. So I get it, right? And anime allows for a different type of feel when it comes to a series like this, but it just happens a lot. And like, I'm not opposed to, like, you know, animes not being like, I'm not that kind of person who's like a prude about like, oh yeah, and this anime is not well animated, you know, it's garbage or stuff like that. But like, it's just more jarring than anything because it happens so often, and it happens in the most random of places, right? Like it just happens a bit too often for me to notice it. Normally, you can kind of like, you know, turn your brain off and not think about that kind of stuff, but like, Dual Rulers does it way too much, and like, you know, I'm not saying it's kind of hard to like think about if it's an artistic choice or a budget cuts, but like as the series goes on, you definitely tell it's more of a budget cut thing. Now there are some moments I really did like, as I mentioned before, Unica versus Sin, but there's also this few scenes like the latter few episodes that have done really well. Sin going crazy after waking his Commander Gear powers was done really well. Unica basically doing what Soul did in XR and having her like getting shot with like a magical cannon to supercharge her own weapons was done really good. Unica and Sin fighting against Nerval in the final episode like had some crazy artistic shit going on. It was like that was like I think the best part of like Dual Rulers, just showing the horror. Like they did some crazy horror shit in episode 8 and was done really well. Like I think that's like the best sequence in the entire anime. That is insane outside of Sin versus Unica for the first time. But yeah, the animation is a little bit off, but it's not like the worst. It could have been worse. Dual Rulers has horrible pacing, and that's one thing I want to actually talk about. Dual Rulers has a very terrible pacing, which I get. The anime is short, you know, it has to be out before Unica comes out. I get it, you know, no big deal, right? But damn, dude, like the anime either goes way too damn fast or way too slow, right? Like, and I'm not opposed to that stuff taking like a time to slow down. You know, like again, there's like what Unica with Bridget. That episode was like a very slow episode because it shows more like Unica bonding with Bridget. It shows, you know, Sin trying to come to terms with the fact that he's a king of gears now that Sky and Dizzy were sealed away. And I like that slow episode because it not only gave us new lore stuff, it gave us more character interactions that you would pretty much never see again, right? But like the anime just, I think my best example of what like the pacing is like the last few episodes where like everything has to happen all at once. Episode 7 is by far one of the worst cases of this, because it crams like 4 episodes worth of shit in like the span of that one episode. I love the episode because like there's a lot of action in it. Like it's practically all action. Plus there's a giant Evangelion reference. Love it. Like episode 7 is one massive Evangelion reference, and I love it. But damn, dude, the pacing of Dual Rulers is absolutely terrible. Like I've never had so much whiplash watching an anime before, and I've seen shit like. I don't even want to give an example. I'm trying to think of a most recent example. Again, I don't keep up with anime much nowadays, so I don't know like how bad stuff is. But I don't think I've ever seen an anime this like bad in regards to pacing, which I get. It's short anime, 8 episodes. They have to cram as much as they can as possible. But damn, I really wish it could have been 12. But I don't know how much money again was involved with this project, so don't know. And I think another thing I don't really like too much is that. The Sin and Unica dynamic is not what I expected. Now, with the revelation of Unica being Sin's sister and all like that, I was expecting a little bit more between them. You know, also they didn't get revealed to like I think episode 5 or 6, can't remember exactly. But it's not as strong as I thought it would be. Like the anime kind of positioned these two as like, okay, rivals, or you know, you will see them together more, that kind of stuff like that. But like it doesn't. You know, Unica hardly ever spends any time with Sin. And, like, it all feels so one-sided on Sin's side. You hear him scream, Unica, Unica! And Unica doesn't really show anything. And, like, it feels like they wanted to really push Unica and Bridget being, like, you know, besties, which I'm cool with, whatever. But it just kind of feels weird that, like, Sin and Unica only get, like, a W together at the very end of the anime, which I don't like. I really didn't like that, because, like, that means the whole time you wanting, like, these two to, like, kind of, like, not bond per se, but like they have more of a connection to each other, and it just doesn't happen. I feel like once they have their fight in episode 2, they have like sort of a fight in episode 4, I think. I can't. I'm starting to like remember the episode started to bleed again because again the pacing. But anyway, I think it was like episode 3 or 4, where like they confront each other again, and then like Unica's about to be eaten by a gear, and Sin's able to command it to move, stuff like that. Yeah, that's like the last time they actually do anything together until like the very end of the anime. Like, it's crazy. I don't like that because I thought this dynamic was going to be something more than what it was supposed to be. I mean, it's probably going to happen in arcade mode or Stride, but I really don't think the game should do all the heavy lifting. What was the point of having an anime if you're just going to leave it off like that and not, do anything with that? Don't even start the fact that Unica still leaves at the end of the anime, which I get why. There's no real reason for her to stick around, but like it kind of sucks that she leaves anyway, and then like we have to understand about that in Stride, but. Again, Unica's new. She's still growing. She's still trying to figure out herself. So I totally understand why we have to like kind of leave that off. But I don't know, man. I really would have loved Sin and Unica, like more moments for them together outside of the whole conflict stuff, because it just feels like weird when like Unica crashes out over Bridget like so hard after Bridget gets like hurt in like the episode 7. And like Sin's her brother, for Christ's sake. I mean, she didn't know that until like way later, but like still, like I don't know, man. It just feels like they definitely know how popular Bridget is, and you're like, oh, we gotta push her more. We never gotta push her out here more. Why not? I don't know, man. Not the biggest fan of what they did with like Unica and like Sin's relationship. I'm not really. It pays off in the end. I really like it. I really think them fighting together at the final episode. It really does pay off, but it just feels kind of like. It feels kind of like a last minute kind of thing, like, oh yeah, we need these two together because they were like promoted in like the anime together, that kind of shit, right? Like it's just, ugh. Now I didn't want to like be mean about that whole like last segment I talked about Unica and Sin, because I do like the inclusion of Bridget. I know a lot of people were kind of like making memes before the anime came out, like, oh, what's Blood doing here, that kind of thing, or like, why is Bridget here? But I'm not opposed to Bridget's role in the story. I really like her here because not only I like Bridget in general, I think a lot of people like Bridget now. A lot of people are sick of seeing Bridget. A lot of people like Bridget. I understand why. She's like it or not, she is a mainstay character right now. She's too popular. She's practically a main character at this point in terms of like being like mega popular. Fine, of course she was going to be the anime as one of the faces of it, right? And I'm not opposed to her role in the story because it helps Unica discover herself. But the way they do it in the anime, they give Bridget like a naked like not a naked shower scene. I would say shower scene, like a I guess a beach scene. They were kind of on a beach, a naked beach scene. Her hanging out with Unica. It just kind of feels weird because like Bridget. It's just because it's Bridget being the one who's the pivotal to Unica's the character development. It's what it feels weird to me, right? Personally, for me, it feels like character shelling. As again, I like Bridget. But like, considering how big the character is and how much she keeps popping up in like other Guilty Gear stuff, like merch and whatever, all that crap, like it just feels like character shelling. It just had to be Bridget of all people to get Unica to understand, for her development. Bridget was the one Unica crashed out over, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just, again, I love Bridget. It's just like, I'm kind of tired of seeing Bridget. Nah, I don't want to be that guy. Nah, I ain't gonna be like that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I really feel like they should have put more emphasis on Unica and Sin, because it just feels like Bridget kind of just stole the spotlight in the whole dynamic. Which again, I'm not opposed to Unica having a friend. I think the dynamic is cute. That episode was really good. I really like this episode because Bridget can relate her problems to Unica, and I could totally get that. I like that, and it goes even further beyond knowing that Unica's a gear herself, and it kind of like ties that to Bridget's whole story of trying to discover herself, right? But it just feels weird that like we put so much focus on this, and then like the dynamic that we should have been focusing on, like Sin and Unica, doesn't even get resolved until the last episode, and that really bums me out. Like it bums me out. Again, the anime probably would have if we had more episodes, would probably been better that way. But I just don't. I don't know, man. But anyway, finally, we can move on to my last 2 points. Nerval. Okay, so Nerval's the second to last point I want to bring up. He was fine. Nerval's such a weird case because he's technically the main villain twice. Like, obviously, Unica was set up to be the main villain, but of course, everybody didn't believe that. We obviously knew that, like, Unica was like just being controlled by someone. It was too obvious, right? So Nerval was being set up as like the main villain, and he was obviously evil. Like there was no way that he wasn't going to be the main antagonist. But the weird thing about Nerval is that like his main timeline self, like the one we see the entire time, is not really the main antagonist by setting him up as that one. So we start with Unica, thinking she's like the main villain. Then there's Nerval, who's the actual main villain. But then we get introduced to future Nerval, who's basically the one who sent Unica to the past to tell his current version all the stuff that's going to happen in the future, and that's how we get set up here, right? So future Nerval comes out and becomes the main villain, and it kind of feels weird to me because like it feels like he was, first of all, he was introduced like not even halfway. It was like that, like what, the 3/4 of the anime, not the very end. Like we still had time to like get to know Nerval, like do his backstory and stuff like that. But like it's kind of funny that like we got to know more of his current self since we've seen him longer than his future self, which I think is kind of funny. It's kind of a nice twist on the villain. It's like, oh yeah, the villain that we think he was the main villain. No, he's just a more distorted, corrupted, evil version of himself in the future comes back to the past and causes that, right? And then future Nerval basically just kills current Nerval, which I think is funny. Like he straight up says, oh yeah, two people can't exist at the same timeline, so I'm just going to kill my current self, which is kind of funny to me thinking about that. Because people brought up like, well, how about Unica? Will Unica just like fade away and die? Well, I don't think that's the same thing because Unica didn't exist in the current timeline. She only existed in like the far beyond future, right? And then like there's only one Unica to come from like the future to the past. So instead of like Nerval existing both in the future and the past, it's basically just one Unica. That's why she isn't like vanishing away some weird timeline shit. There was only one Unica. There were two Nervals. But anyway. The problem about Nerval is that his future self didn't get enough fleshing out time. And I feel like it's kind of funny when you think about, okay, well, if the current version gets his backstory fleshed out and stuff like that, you would think like, okay, what about his future self? Problem is for me is that we don't get enough time with his future self because like when future Nerval comes in, he kind of just reveals like, okay, you know what? So I basically caused the Second Crusades in the future. I want the world to be destroyed. I want to control gears. I want to become like the ultimate being or whatever, right? That he converts himself into a gear. So it's basically he wanted to kill the gears, but then he was basically like, lying his ass off and saying, yeah, I'm now a variant of a gear and I'm fused with the sky and I become a god and all that shit, right? So I just really wish we got more time with his future self because all you really did was like fight like a monster version of him and he just kept summoning clones of himself and like I kind of liked his current version self more because we would have probably seen him rise up to become the main villain. We didn't get that. We kind of just got his future self coming in and killing his current version and taking over the role of the villain. It was a twist, but I kind of would have preferred like current version Nerval like evolved and become like more deranged and evil as the anime went on, and then became like the final boss. And then we'll see maybe he'll design to become the future self design. But I guess it just I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess it would make sense for Nerval I don't know. I'm just it's just confusing. It's a little bit confusing. He eventually became just a Guilty Gear version of Fuse Zamasu. Like, literally the same damn character. But he wasn't a bad villain. He wasn't bad. He wasn't that entertaining for me. He was pretty so-so. My last complaint, where's the Daisuke music? Where's the Daisuke music? Not a single Daisuke track in this game. In this anime. What the hell? Where the hell is all the Daisuke music? One thing that really bugs me about this anime is like there's not even a single Daisuke song in this entire anime. Like I can forgive the opening and ending not being by Daisuke. I can forgive the entire soundtrack to an extent. But there's not a single song by Daisuke in the game at all. I'm sorry, in the anime at all. Not a single one. What kind of shit is that? That's so lame because I'm like, damn it. Guilty Gear is known for its music. Hell, even BlazBlue Alter Memory knew the memo. Like, Daisuke made one song for Alter Memory, and the rest of the songs from the anime were like, not all of them, but like a vast majority were remixes of tracks from the anime. And they were, from the games. And they were really good remixes, right? Rearranges, stuff like that, right? Not a single Daisuke song. You're not going to hear like or not even like a remix one. You're not going to hear like a remix of Sin Steam or like a remix of like Jacko, Kai, Soul, whatever. You're not going to hear that. Not at all in this anime. And that bums the absolute hell out of me. Why? Why, dude? This series is known for its music, and you couldn't even. And what's worse, they don't even play any of the Guilty Gear music in the anime. You couldn't have slipped in an MP3 of like Find Your One Way in there. You guys made the damn music video. I don't know, man. Kind of missed opportunity. But anyway, yeah, the anime, it was alright. The Guilty Gear anime was pretty alright. Could have been worse, but again, I don't regret watching it. And plus, I'm obsessed with Unica, so you know, kind of had to say that there. But that's all I had to say, guys. Sorry this video wasn't like the best. I really wanted to talk about dual ruler, but I just don't have the time to make videos like I used to. So this will have to be like a super quick one. I guess quick, you know. I guess quick isn't the best word to use, but yeah, I just really wanted to talk about it in general. You know, my thoughts on dual rulers. I'm happy with it. I'm happy that it exists. I'm glad we have dual rulers. I'm glad that I watched it. Love Guilty Gear, so an anime definitely needed to be had. But yeah, see y'all next time. Peace out, everyone. Hope y'all have a great day. Kaizouwar is out.